Good morning, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. We are at 20340 Southwest 93rd Avenue here in Tualatin. I describe everything as if you're standing out in the street facing the front of the house. We are on the right side of the home, on the front yard side of the fence. Got a big 4-inch ABS cleanout sticking out of the ground right here. You cannot miss it. We're going to check the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. Water is running, and we're going to zero the foot counter out here at the base of the cleanout. Off we go. Little stringy things right there are just cobwebs. Very, very common stuff to see in sewers. They'll almost always exclusively build their cobwebs at the pipe joints because there's a lip there to hang on to. I get a lot of people asking me if they're roots. A little bit of grease built up in the flow line. We'll see how that looks when the line drains out. My camera right now is kind of situated a little bit sideways, so the flow line is off to the left side of the screen there. Alright, transitioning now to 4-inch 3034 PVC. That joint shifted just a tad. You got a little stringy thing coming off the joint there. We're going to revisit that spot on the way out. Take a look there. That joint did slip a little bit, or to some extent anyway. We'll see how significant that looks here in a moment. Anytime you have a slip at a joint, similar to what the cobwebs I was just talking about, joints create a little bit of a ledge for the spiders to build their webs off of. That same little bit of an edge there, especially if the joint is slipped, is an easy spot for stringy things to get hung up on as they come down the line. A lot of stuff goes down sewer lines that mimics the shape of a small root. Dental floss, feminine hygiene products, string from your washing machine even from coming off your clothes, things like that. So we'll revisit that here in a second and see if we can get a better gander at it. On its own, from a flow standpoint, flow is not being affected there, but we'll see if we can identify anything going on. And there's the main at about 62 feet. We're going to go locate that while the pipe drains. All right, located the camera head successfully. Line terminates out here on Southwest 93rd. So the line runs up the right side of the house. This is as you face the front of the home from the street. And then kind of jaunts into more of the middle of the driveway before turning and straightening out to go off into the roadway. The line eventually ends up running up at least part of the driveway there to get out to the road, in case you're curious where the sewer line goes. So that bit of tan brownish stuff there in the flow line is an example of grease buildup. This is not a nightmare level of grease. It's right around that point where I start to consider cleaning. By and large, the kind of grease buildup you've gotten here is the kind that would more exacerbate scenarios that were already very close to blocking or blocking already and make them block a little more stubbornly. It's not the kind of grease buildup that would be causing problems all on its own. It's nowhere near thick enough to do that right now. I like to point it out for educational purposes so people can see what it looks like when you put greases, fats, and oils down your kitchen sink drain. They will build up in your line. And a lot of it will when it goes down there. Your best to not put it down there at all. Kind of the rule I tell most people to live by that mitigates most buildup, the significant kind anyway, that if you've got enough grease or oil on your pans, that if you were to take that pan and turn it sideways like you're going to dump stuff off of it into the sink or garbage, if there's enough on there that it runs off the pan in beads or worse, that's when you want to mitigate. So let it cool down, wipe it out with a paper towel, or scrape it off, or pour it off into a garbage can after it's cooled. And or when it's in a hot state, you can pour it into something that can handle high temperature, like a metal can, something of that nature, something that's not going to melt into that high temperature. That mitigates all the meaningful stuff. A thin little coating of Pam spray, for instance, is not a big deal. You know, ideally none of it goes down there, but that level of stuff where you can barely even see it, that's not going to be causing your problems. It's when you dump real quantity down there is where it gets you. And if you know some amount is getting down the line or got down the line while you're cleaning your dishes off, one of the things you can do is always use hot water, but keep your hot water running for a full minute after that last dish was scrubbed off. That helps to make sure that anything that did get down the line remains melted and emulsified until it gets out to the main, or at least a good distance from the house. So we're back here at this transition joint. That right there is looking like just some debris. I'm gonna go locate it really quick just to see where this is at really quick. But when I pull back here and look at the pipe edge where that thing is coming off of it, there, what looks like is attached to the joint there is as thin as a human hair. There's nothing substantial about it, and it's not displaying itself like roots. I've cambered over 25,000 sewer lines. I have seen so many roots I can't even tell you. You know, it's a stringy thing, but everything else about it, the way it's displaying itself, does not appear to be a root at all. It looks like a piece of human hair, or a couple strands of human hair got hung up on the joint. All right, I just located, just for the sake of knowing where it's at. It's under the driveway at this juncture. In fact, once the line clears the front right corner of the house, it runs up the driveway. The line actually runs a little bit straighter than I originally thought. I thought it jaunted off into the garden bed adjacent to the home, which it may, but I think it may pretty quickly go right under the drive. So anyhow, as far as this joint goes here, I don't see any strong or obvious signs the joint's exposed to the ground. There is a slip there between the pipe edges, but we're looking at black fern coat, a coupler in between the two. I don't see dirt sticking to the joint. We don't have earthworms crawling around in here, anything that shows me that joint's open to the ground. What we also don't have either, which is very common when you get joints that are exposed to the ground, is hydro erosion that leads to settling issues. Like right here, you have just a teeny little bit of standing water, but the joint, when I go over the top of it, I'm not feeling an edge there. So it shifted a little bit, which I would expect to see anytime you have a slip. But when you pull back here, everything by and large looks flush. Other than, I mean, you've got maybe a 1/16 of an inch of water here from 37 to 30. It's not even really a foot. It's like 6 inches of pipe. So for the sake of writing it up, I'll write it up as 37 to 38 feet, but it's about half that length in reality. So I'll write that up as a combo of a belly, from a hyper-technical standpoint, it's a belly, and a slip joint. But flow is not being affected here. There's no hard obstruction going on. I don't see any strong, obvious signs of this progressing. Otherwise, you would expect to see dirt streaking, things like that. Stuff that shows you that, like when I pull back to this point here, especially high up on the pipe wall where the water rarely even touches, that's where you get your best evidence. In the flow line area, water's going to wash things away if dirt were to be migrating through there, for instance. But up higher, you know, halfway up the flow line or higher, that's where you get your best signs. And that black fern coat there between the two joints is just black. There's no dirt streaking on it. There's no worms crawling around, anything that shows it's exposed to the ground. So you've got it's a visual blemish, but from a flow and functionality standpoint, it's doing absolutely nothing to affect anything. And generally speaking, stuff like that happens almost immediately after a line is buried. It's rarely progressive unless the joint is exposed. Which again, I don't see any signs of that whatsoever. And the grease buildup is minimal enough in the line here. Like, it wouldn't hurt to clean the line, but it's not at a point where it's doing anything to affect functionality. So, good flow all the way to the main lateral. All the pipe here is intact. Again, you do have a slip there at that transition joint, but the joint all appears intact. Line is functioning properly at this time. That spot there at the transition is far too minor, in my opinion, to need repairs.